Welcome to Bitter Reality Brewing. It's the 10 tips, recommendations, hacks, tricks, whatever you want to call it. Week 3. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, and thank you again for all the support. We've been getting tons of shares, likes, comments. If you have a recommendation on a hack, a trick, something you just do, maybe you take it for granted. I take most of this stuff for granted. Let us know. I may have it in my list and we'll cover it, or maybe you have a different way of doing it. Maybe it's better, or maybe it's something we've already done and maybe I can expand on it a little bit. Without further ado, number 1, size matters. I know your girlfriend, your wife says, size doesn't matter. Well, when it comes to brewing, size matters. If you're gonna be doing 1 gallon brews, awesome, that's how I started. You don't need a 10-gallon pot, okay? But I see a lot of people out there, and as you know, currently I'm brewing with an Anvil, and I like my Anvil. I see a lot of people trying to do 5-gallon brews in a 6.5-gallon. I know it sucks when you want to do something, you don't have the money, but if you can save up a little bit and then buy the 10.5 if you're going to do 5-gallon batches. Think of liters, especially for the US people watching, as gallons. For every 4 liters, you got a gallon. And that's kind of how I had to think, because, and I had to move this when I started talking because the thing kept echoing. This is a super cheap pot. I got a bunch of these for like $20, and I mean a bunch, from Harbor Freight. They have this indent, which sucks on a burner, but if you stick it on a propane burner, it works just fine. And I don't remember how big this one is. I think it's close to 20 liters. But the key is, if you're doing 1-gallon batches, buy yourself I know you're gonna go, what? Buy yourself a 16-liter pot. That's 4 gallons. Don't do 8 liters. When I was doing 1 gallons, because of the surface area, I had a lot more evaporation from the heat, and I could easily burn off almost a gallon. Yeah, I would do 2 gallon and end up with 1 gallon. You're not gonna have that when you have a long tube and you're brewing 5, 6, 7, 8 gallons of water. It's not gonna be the same. But you want that extra space. Plus, if you do like I do and you start cheap, these little rivets and solder points, they suck, they leak. So you've pretty much lost about 2 liters right there, if not more, maybe close to a gallon, maybe 3 or 4 liters. Don't count on that. You want some area, you want it to be able to come up and rise. You need the space. Don't buy too small. Now at the same time, like I said, don't buy too big. If you're only gonna do 1 gallons, don't buy a 10-gallon pot. So let's move on to number 2. And I'm gonna leave these around. Spare kettle or pot. When I first started going from 1 gallons to multiple 1 gallons, I got this super cheap bio, whatever you want to call it. It's like a turkey fryer. It worked great for a short while until I could, decide where I was going and what I needed to buy, because I wasn't sure and I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I picked this up with a propane burner at Walmart for like 40 bucks. So there are cheap things out there. But this, for a long time, became a great thing for me to heat up my sparge water, or to, when I started crushing my own grains, I put all my grains in here. It worked out great. When I was, using the grain father, I had this to heat up water. Using the Anvil, I actually still have that available. I used it for the grains this weekend. I didn't use it to heat up the water. I used this for heating the water, since I've just about burned the hell out of it. But you need a spare pot or kettle. This technically is now my spare pot or kettle now that I'm using the Anvil. And yeah, it's an Anvil too. I got a great deal on it on Amazon a little while back. And as you've watched my videos, we've lost power a couple times. Instant boil kettle. I can dump everything over here, boil, keep things going, power comes on, I can decide if I want to go back or not. It's just, I have options. If I didn't have the spare kettles, I'd have nothing to heat up my sparge water. Just trust me, you need a spare pot or kettle. Number 3, buy equipment for long-term, and I mean long-term use. This was not a long-term use, but I still use it. I use it for a lot of things. Mainly I use it to clean the labels off bottles. I fill it up with my PBW, the hot water. I probably use it for that more than anything now. So I do at least use it for something. It wasn't a complete waste, but if I had to do it again, I don't know, I probably wouldn't. Don't buy the crap. Buy things you know you're gonna enjoy. Same thing with like the Anvil, the Grain Father, all the other great brewing systems out there. Don't find the cheapest thing you found on Amazon that you've never heard of. It's got a 1-star rating, says it takes 8 weeks to get to you from China. No one's ever heard of it and you don't know if it's gonna work. Not that a lot of this stuff isn't made in China, but the key is don't waste your money on something that you're gonna get 1-2 brews out. I've seen comments about it started to rust, or it's got all kinds of rust marks. yeah, avoid that stuff like the plague. It's just gonna be you dumping about half of what you could have, maybe half of what you thought you saved, but instead you just threw that money down the drain. Don't do it. Number 4, this is huge, and this is huge for me because had I known what I know now, I would have done this years ago. With the Grainfather, I had a cool counterflow. Yeah, a great wort chiller is worth every dime and your time. That counterflow, not even close. When it comes to Jaded Brewing's Scylla or something like, not even close. The little stainless steel ones they give you with a lot of the all-in-ones, such as Anvils and stuff, they're throwing it in there because you need something that helps make it a complete package. I wish they would just leave it out, save me a little bit of money, and let me take that money and put it towards something that I know is going to do an amazing job. And it's kind of like, you don't want jack of all trades and master of none. You want the brew kettles to be great brew kettles. You want the chillers to be great chillers. So you're going to have to buy a great chiller. And I've been watching on YouTube and I've noticed people with plate chillers, or they had, homemade immersion chillers. They have counterflow. Guess what I'm starting to see them using? Jaded Brewing immersion chillers, such as the Scylla and a few others, based on their brew system. There are a couple other brands out there that are very similar, and I don't know who came first. I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to argue what's better or not because I haven't tried their product. But I can tell you, I love the Jaded so much. I bought a second one, and you can watch that video where I did a complete just breakdown of reviews on how and what the best methods were. They made huge promises, and I wasn't sure they could live up to those promises. They exceeded them. A lot of people I've noticed been clicking on my affiliate link, buying Jaded chillers. I definitely appreciate it. Helps kind of pay some of the bills. But I promise you, every single person who has a Jaded Brewing chiller and is using it wishes they had one sooner and doesn't regret the purchase. It's not a cheap purchase. I know these things run like 150 to almost 200 bucks based on what you're looking to buy for your brewing system. But like I said, a great wort chiller is worth every dime and your time. I will put a link down below. You can check it out. Clay or any of the other guys over there at Jaded Brewing, great help if you have a question, you don't understand something, or you want some custom done. Very inexpensive to have something custom done. Send them an email. You'll be shocked. They respond very quick. That was another thing that impressed me before I decided to buy a second one, was they were quick in responding. They made suggestions, and I love that. That was awesome. 5, following that whole wort chiller, chill fast. Reduce haze, reduce infection. Save your time. Just chill it down, and get the yeast pitched and move on. Number 6, and I mentioned this in another one a while back. This is DME, dry malt extract. If you've ever worked with dry malt extract, especially on a regular basis, and you've torn a bag open, used some, sealed that bag up the best you could, or the best you think it's sealed up, and you put it away, and you come back maybe a day, week, months, and you have a brick, then you'll understand. Silica gel packs. You get them in your packaging from Amazon or wherever you buy stuff from. I keep a couple packets in here. I think I got like 4 of them in here. But you know what? My dry malt extract stays powdered. It doesn't get hard like a rock. It's still sticky on the outside where I've got the dust, but even just a hint of moisture and this stuff sticks to it. So Silica Packets in your dry malt extract, huge. And yes, this is a reused raw mixed peanut container. So no reason to buy a container just for my dry malt extract if I already have one. Number 7, I know you're gonna laugh. I even have a thing here marked, bags and marbles. This is one of the first suggestions I was ever given for dry hopping inside my 1-gallon carboys, and then eventually I used it in my 5 gallons, and now I do it inside my kegs, and I avoid any kind of air or oxygen coming in anyways. But if you have no choice, I buy like about 100 or 50 at a time of them socks in case I ever need them. It's just cheaper that way. But I have an entire box of marbles, a little gelatin, but marbles. I drop them in some hot water or some star sand, I put them in the hop sock. Yep. And the hop sock, usually I do the same thing, a little bit of star sand, hot water, make sure it's nice and clean. Cut it to size, fill it with the marbles, fill it with the hops, tie it up with some string that is used for cooking, which also I sterilize. I cut it and run that through some star sand and hot water. And I shove it like a long sock down into the carboy and let it sink in there. And that helps to drop the hops to the bottom. So marbles in your hop sock. I know you're thinking, what? Emulsion bag, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I have an entire container just for marbles and hop socks, I guess you could call it. Number 8, avoid anything with fat when adding things to your beer. I wish somebody would have told me this one much sooner. It would have helped me, but basically fat will kill the head retention. It will just, yeah, it's like have you ever seen carbonated fat? No, I haven't either. So don't add fat of any kind to your beer. Trust me. I've seen some people get away with a little bit of coconut stuff in there with some fat, and I don't know how they get away with it, but they do. Number 9, avoid toxins. I know you're thinking, well, I wouldn't put poison in my beer. You might be doing it and not even know it. And I'm kind of giving you 2 here. Basically, I've got 2 things about fruits. Fruit is fine, but many seeds aren't, such as cherry, peach, plum, pear, apricot, apple. They all contain cyanide, which our bodies can detoxify in small amounts. But you don't want to be putting a ton of cherries, with the seeds and everything, maybe crushed up, and you just drop them in there and you're going to put them in your beer for a while and just kind of get that nice flavoring going, because you're going to basically be serving an entire keg with cyanide in it. I don't know how much it's going to produce, but I wouldn't risk it. I don't recommend it. Be careful. The same thing, if you don't understand rhubarb, don't use rhubarb. From my understanding, rhubarb stems are fine. It's the leaves from the rhubarb that are toxic. Just avoid it. How to avoid it? Let's go to number 10, the final one, fruit. I swear by frozen fruit. Buy it frozen. It's flash frozen usually, right as fresh as it can be. A lot of dietitians now are talking about frozen vegetables and fruit actually being healthier than fresh, because fresh sits for days and loses a lot of its nutrients naturally, which I didn't know that. And the frozen is frozen shortly after being picked, so it preserves those nutrients. A little trick. You can still use fresh fruit, but clean it really well, and freeze it. And you're thinking, well, maybe I don't want to freeze it. Freeze the frozen, freeze the fresh. After you've frozen it, take it out, put it in the fridge, let it thaw, let it get nice and soft and a little gooey or mushy if you can. Refreeze it. Let it get nice and frozen. Take it out one more time. What you're doing is you're going to destroy the membranes or the cell walls in that fruit. That fruit is going to be like goop. When you put that into your beer, first of all, it's probably going to have nothing alive in it. It will be dead, which is going to be great. You want that. But you're going to get a lot more of those fruit flavors that you're trying to get out of that fruit, because it's just going to disintegrate. It kills me when I watch people brewing and then they take these whole giant chunks of peaches or apples or whole cherries. I know it's only getting like bits of surface. It's not making full contact. It's the same thing with hops. People want more contact. That's why pelletized hops kind of break out. You want that contact with the entire product. So fruit is no different than hops. You want that entire contact. So having something that's goopy, disintegrating in the bottom of your fermenter is awesome, because you're going to get all that flavor into your beer, and it's going to be infused with all that great flavor that you were looking for. Thank you again for joining us here at Bitter Reality Brewing. Don't forget, like, subscribe. Thank you again to everybody out there for sharing and sharing and sharing. It's been huge. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Next week will be week 4 and another 10. So don't forget, comment, like, let me know what you think. Let me know if you didn't know about one of these. Thank you again.